Hi everyone, and welcome back to Friday Maker Night at the Ajax Public Library. My name's Carly, and I'm so glad to be sharing this program with all of you today. Now, if anyone here is part of the TD Summer Reading Club, please do stick around until the end of this video for a secret code that you can enter into the SRC database for a badge and some bonus points. So, this week, our Maker Night activities are all about food. Food can be such a fun part of summer celebrations. People like to have barbecues in the summertime, and it's also a great time to have refreshing fruits like watermelon and strawberries because so many things are in season and really taste their best. It's also a time when families might have a little more time at home together, especially this year, so it's a good time to try cooking together and making some really delicious things. Now, we aren't making any actual food at this week's Maker Night for a few reasons. One is that it wouldn't exactly be a craft. And another is that all kinds of different people have all kinds of different foods at home. And some people have allergies, for example, that others might not. But what we will be doing is a bunch of different crafts and activities that use supplies you can find in the kitchen. So let's get started. Our first project is a personalized placemat. I'll show you that. Now, this is something that you can put your favorite dishes on when you sit down to eat to help keep the table clean and also to make your spot look a little bit special. So what I did to make mine was I picked out my favorite plate, my favorite glass, and my favorite spoon, fork, and knife, and I just set them down on this piece of paper and traced around them. I traced first with pen and then covered over that with marker. I also decorated a little bit around the edges, as you can see, and put my name down here at the bottom. So now when I'm setting the table, I know exactly where all of my dishes will go. Now I did skip the last step for this craft, which would be to cover it with contact paper or with packing tape. I skipped it so that we wouldn't have too much glare when I'm showing you my finished placemat, but that's a really important step to not skip if you're making one for actual use, because without that plastic covering, your lovely placemat could get a little bit messed up if it gets anything wet on it, which it probably would, right? So be careful about that. Let's see, what's our next one? Yes, our second project is utensil painting, and that's exactly what it sounds like. You'll be doing some painting using common kitchen utensils. So I did this abstract art using one fork, one spoon, and one dull knife. Can you tell which parts I did with which utensil? I'll show you a closer look. Yeah, so I did do this picture using plastic cutlery instead of metal, and I would definitely recommend that you do the same thing to make sure you don't end up with permanently painted silverware, because I don't think your parents would appreciate that too much, but it's also a good safety practice as well. But it is just a great way to create some fun abstract art. That's our second one. Next is a similar project called plastic wrap painting. I do have to warn you that this project can get very messy, so it's important to make sure that you have a well-protected workstation and maybe some old clothes on that you don't mind getting paint on. The good news, though, is that it's very easy to do. I'll show you what it looks like. So what I did to make this was I took a sheet of paper, I squeezed some drops of paint on it in different spots, and then I covered the sheet with plastic wrap and just used my fingers to mix the colors together and spread them around. And we got this really interesting just ball of color. I could have covered the whole page, but I was trying to not make too much of a mess. So this is a little bit like finger painting, except that hopefully you don't get your fingers as dirty. So there you go. Our last craft this week is supposed to look like one of the foods I mentioned earlier. I'm sure you guys recognize watermelon. So this is a really fun activity, and it's one that's very straightforward to make. You just need to take a paper plate and cut it in half, then color the outside edge of the plate green, the inside part pink, and draw on some black seeds throughout it. Yeah, so that's a fun one. I also have an activity challenge for you guys again this week. So what I want you to do is see if each person in your family can identify a mystery food. How that works is each of you will pick out a food for someone else to identify using only touch and smell. So foods that smell really strong or distinctive, or ones that have features you can really easily recognize by touching them, like the fuzzy skin on a kiwi, would work the best. So you can take turns having each other test different foods and see who does the best. Now, the full instructions for that activity and all 4 crafts are available at ajaxlibrary.ca via a PDF that you can download by looking for Friday Maker Night under today's date on the program calendar. That PDF also has a book list for you, as always. This week we've got ebooks for all ages that are all about cooking and food. So please do check that out. It's a really fun subject, and we have some good cookbooks in there too. So it's almost time for me to go, but before I do, I believe I owe you summer readers your secret code. Ready? This week's code is FLOOR. F-L-O-O-R. All lowercase, FLOOR. Okay. Thanks so much for attending this week, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope we'll see you back here for our next edition. With all the exciting programs we have going on this summer, Friday Maker Night will now be happening every 2 weeks instead of every week. So our next program will be on July the 10th, and we'll be celebrating some of the symbols of Canada. See you then, everyone. Bye for now.